As I scroll through social media and I see it is back to school time, and I love to look at the pictures of the children returning to school and of students returning back to college. I look at these pictures and I smile to myself because it brings me great joy to see so many young people embarking on this higher level of education for themselves at their choice and at their school of choice. And it really baffles me how beautiful these dorms are being set up. Have you guys checked that out when you see online how they go into this blank space with just a bed and maybe a little closet and a desk, and they make it just beautiful. They make it their own home. And it reminded me of when I went off to college. When I went off to college, I didn't have the glorious things or everything that I needed to be equipped to go to school. My story was a little bit different. And I'm sure there's other people out there that have similar stories, and there may even be people right now that are going to college for the first time, and they can relate to what I'm about to share with you. I want you to take what I talk about in this episode to heart and apply it to your daily life where you see fit. I always try to give information that you can pull from or make it relatable to things that may be occurring right here in the present in your life. And then take this information and try to apply it to make your situation even better. So, looking back and seeing the students return to college brought me back to late 90s when I went off to college. My sister was already in college. I was going to college. So my mom was a single parent. I talked about this before in a previous podcast about my mom and my upbringing. But my mom was a single parent. She had two college students and one child at home that was in elementary school. So things were tight financially. I think I was always consciously aware from like early on in my childhood to be very conscious of spending or asking for certain things because I knew that my mom had to make a way for myself and my sister. And then when my other baby sister came along, it was three of us. So I always was kind of reserved when asking for things or seeking for things from my parent because I knew, what the circumstances were. So going off to college, I didn't make a big fuss about all this stuff that I really wished I had, but I didn't. I took what I had and I kept going. I went off to college. I took the comforter set from my bed. I packed my clothes that I had wore during my senior year in school. I packed a suitcase that my mom had gotten from a yard sale of one of her patients. And it wasn't a rolling kind of suitcase. It was the one you had to tote. And my grandmother's friend, who was a retired teacher as well as my grandmother, gave me a word processor. And that's what I was going to use to type my papers. I know that's a throwback. I know. But that's what I had going to school. And I arrived at school feeling as if I was already met with challenges before it even got started. I felt inadequate and challenged from the very beginning. And I bet if you take the time to think about things that have happened in your life or that are happening in your life, you've had a situation where you felt challenged from the beginning or inadequate, unable to see your way through this situation. So I arrived at school and there was issues with housing. So that was a challenge I was facing. Financial aid only paid for so much. And I had dorm fees. We had to pay that. Thankfully, my grandmother and my mother put funds together to pay for my dorm fees and give me a little bit of book money. And I had some book money saved from me working over the summer. And so that was it. That's what it had. That's what I had at the time. And I went into this dorm and, I had to make it do what it do. I was in a dorm with three other females. We were kind of like in a suite. And so it was 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and then it was like a common area, like a sitting area. And I was there. And I quickly learned, being out on my own, how to navigate tough situations early on. I always held in the back of my mind that I didn't want, if I didn't have to disturb my mom in any type of way or ask for anything, I was going to find any way possible to make something work out for me before I brought her into the situation. Again, that goes back to that level of awareness that I had early on, that I knew it would be a stressor or a strain for her to do some of the things that I may have needed help with. Not that she wouldn't have, but I just didn't want to put that extra pressure on her because I knew our circumstances. So I wanted to make it easy. And I was determined to accomplish my goals, by any means necessary. So, the challenges that I face with, not having enough book money, or, not having a vehicle, not having a computer to print out my stuff, using the word processor, whatever I had to do, I was determined to do it. And I think about that in relation to just regular life. How many are determined to accomplish your goals by any means necessary? Sometimes we lose that drive. When I think back of young Shamika, I think back of Shamika that was determined. I think back and I see how I developed the ability to be courageous, to be resilient, to be a conqueror from the many things that I had to accomplish to get to where I am today. And it started, in school. It started in college because that was my first time being on my own and having to navigate early adulthood and figure it out. Not being able to pick up the phone and say, hey, I need this, that, and the third, or being able to turn to a friend or sister or aunt or uncle and get the help or the guidance that I may have needed at the time. I had to make it work. And so in that, it built me to be a conqueror, to be resilient, to be courageous. And when you think about a courageous person, that's someone that can stand up against the odds without flinching. That's, you can handle it. Any situation that comes, you're willing to face the negative situations and come out on top. To, not be deterred by danger or pain or setback or disappointment or failure. That's courageous. And like I said, I learned that. I learned to be courageous during that time. And of course, throughout life, but that was the start of it. Being resilient, withstanding and recovering from any kind of difficult situation. I was going to find a way. I was going to find a way to bounce back. I was going to bounce back by any means necessary. It didn't matter what was thrown at me. I had to figure it out. And I guess that's what made me a conqueror, because I was willing to defeat the odds with force. I was willing to take it by force. And so when I think about those three things, I think about all that, and I think about how me being faithful to the Lord always carried me. That was the saving grace through it all. Being faithful and understanding and knowing that, just like the scripture of Deuteronomy 31:6, to be strong and to take courage, to not be intimidated. Don't give them a second thought, because God, your God, is standing ahead of you. He's right there with you, and he won't let you down, and he will not leave you. I lived by that, not even knowing I was living by that, but I always knew in my heart through faith anything was possible. So I talk about this and relate it to seeing the students go back to school, because it just took me back to that place. It took me back to that fresh start, that new freshness, to embark on this new journey. And I think about the students that are out there that are coming there so prepared, coming there bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, so prepared, thinking that they got it all figured out, and just not knowing how much they will grow and be stretched in this new chapter in their life. And I think about the ones that were like me, that are arriving there, that feel inadequate, or feel that they can't compete, or feel that they don't belong. And, I pray that they find the strength to be courageous, to be resilient, to become a conqueror and beat the odds. So many of us have walked that path. So many of us have been dealt a hand that wasn't always even. It was an odd hand. And we had to make things work, to work out for ourselves. And so I just wanted to try to, talk about those things and bring it to your memory, to think about those times in your life where you felt that you couldn't compete or you felt like you couldn't get things done. And just knowing that despite of it all, you did overcome it. It's something in your life that you've overcome, that you face head on. And, sometimes when our back is against the wall, that's all we can do is to come out fighting. You just have to come out fighting. You have to make it work. So I say all of this to say, that I feel like being courageous is more than just a word. It's more than just a label that you can wear. You have to earn the ability to be courageous. So what I mean by earn the ability to be courageous, you have to go through something in order to even know you got that fight in you. Like people say, you got that dog in you. You got to go through something to see if you have that in you, to even make it, to be determined, to face situations head on, to, not flinch when trouble comes your way, to rely on your faith, to rely on what you know, and to figure it out the best way you can with guidance, not just from your own thoughts, but from guidance from prayer. And so I want to talk about that today and use those three things when I think about myself at that time, that early time in life, the start of adulthood, and how I arrived to this campus, like many students that are arriving now. And I did not feel that I could compete. I did not feel like I fit in. I did not feel like I could make it. I was challenged from the beginning. I was met with those challenges and I felt inadequate in those moments. But despite of that, because I had the dream to accomplish the goal of earning my degree from this institution, I stuck it out. And so no matter what was tossed my way, I was going to bounce back. That's that resilience. I was going to find a way. I was going to be able to withstand it, no matter how difficult the situation was or the circumstances. I was going to find a way. And because of being courageous and being resilient, I became a conqueror. And that conqueror in me has carried me through so many things in life. And oftentimes I have to remind myself that I am a conqueror. Young Shamika was young and, didn't have all the responsibilities that older Shamika does now. So young Shamika could, navigate things without that extra stressor of a family or a career or, being in charge of different organizations or any of those other titles. It was just her trying to get to a specific place in life. And so somewhere along the way, we lose the essence of some of those traits that we develop or we have. And it's okay to tap into that every now and then. I hope that in listening to this, someone else taps into what they really have on the inside of them. Because like I said, I sometimes have to remind myself that I'm a conqueror. Despite of what things look like, I'm a conqueror. And, it has been times where I felt like I was defeated. But I always would find a way to get back to a higher ground, to get back to some stability that I could navigate and move forward despite of what everything else looked like around me. And so I wanted to do this podcast today to talk about being courageous, to being determined, to accomplish whatever it is that you have set in your life, and to do it without fear, without hesitation, to do it even when it doesn't make any sense to anybody else, but it makes sense to you, to listen to your heart. I always go back to, we were all created to do something in this life. You're not just here by chance. You're created to do and be something in life that God designed you to be. So when I arrived on that campus many years ago in the late 90s, and I arrived there feeling inadequate or feeling like I couldn't compete or that I didn't belong, that small mustard seed faith that I had in me, that I can do this and that I believe that everything is going to be all right, carried me. It carried me when I didn't even know I was being carried. And even in situations that oftentimes can overwhelm us just by looking at it. If you lay it all out on the table, you'll be like, you know what? I just give up. I just want to let go. But understanding and knowing that you're built for this. You were built to last. And that's what it was when I arrived there on that campus. I was built to last. I was built to have this in my destiny. It was destined to be mine. But I could not just receive it. I had to fight for it. I had to pray about it. I had to go through struggles and accomplish things and climb mountain after mountain after mountain. Even when I saw people around me that had an easy street, even when I see those around me that arrive with everything in hand, every piece of equipment, everything they need to be successful, they're there. And here I am with just what I have. But just like David and Goliath, David only had a pedal and a slingshot, but he was determined to slay that giant. And you know what? I think about that, and that's what a conqueror is. That's what being courageous is. And so when I arrived there, and I wasn't up to par. I didn't have the things, but I had in my heart what I wanted to do. And I believed in my mind and in my spirit that I could accomplish this. And I knew that all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord. So I took those teachings and those things that I got from my youth, and I carried that with me. And when trouble came and peeped its head, I always relied back on the word. I always relied back on prayer. Regardless of what I did, what I said, where I was, I always relied back on that. And that was my faith. That was my belief. And that's what makes you courageous. That's what makes you a conqueror. That's what makes you resilient. It's not just by chance that you have that. You were built with this. You were equipped with this. I don't care what somebody is saying to you. I don't care what you see in your bank account and don't see in your bank account. I don't care what they told you at the doctor. I don't care what you feel in your body. If you believe in purchasing your mind that I am courageous and that I am resilient and that I am a conqueror and that God will not leave me, that God is there for me, don't give up. Don't give in to anything to a second thought, because God, your God, is standing right there with you. He's right there with you, and he will not let you down. He will not leave you. Learn how to lean into that. Learn how to put that as part of your chemical makeup, that God is with me. God is with me, and he will carry me. I hope that someone listens to this and takes this back and puts it into your own life and your own circumstance, and understand and know, you know what, that little podcast about randomly being courageous, that right there has helped me. That right there has given me insight that I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. I hope it brings out the dog in you. I hope it brings out the dog in you, that you say, you know what, I'm determined to accomplish my goals, and by any means necessary. I'm determined to be what I was created to be, what I was designed to be. I'm determined. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I may not have all the steps documented. I may not know that the path is clear, if it's stony, if it's what, I don't know. But what I know is that I trust God. And I'm going to trust this process. And as long as I'm trusting God and I'm trusting this process, I'm going to be courageous. I'm going to be a good shepherd. I'm going to pray. I'm going to fast. I'm going to look to the hills from which comes my help. My help comes from the Lord. I'm going to be steadfast. I'm going to be unmovable. I'm going to trust God with everything that I got, because I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be here. If I wasn't supposed to be here, I wouldn't be here. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to face this and everything that I need. I may not have it in my hands right now, but it is coming. I may not look like it, but I'm going to show up, and God's going to show out. When the Holy Ghost vouch for you, you don't need anybody else to vouch for you. Trust God, believe God, be faithful to the Lord, and be of good courage. You are courageous. I hope this podcast has helped someone today. I hope it has given you a boost in your spirit, and I hope that you share it with someone, and I hope you encourage them to always be courageous, always be resilient, and you are a conqueror. And share with them your story. Share with them. Think about it yourself. Think about the things that you've overcome yourself. The obstacles or the things or situations that you has been in that you forgot about. Think of those things. Bring that back to your memory and understand and know how determined you were to reach your goals, how determined you were to accomplish what you set out, how determined you were to get that degree, how determined you were to be that mom, how determined you were to be that wife, how determined you were to be the head of this company, how determined you were to be the father that you never had, how determined you were to be and have the money that your family never had, how determined you were to not go back to poverty, how determined you were to accomplish everything that you set out to do. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. You be blessed.